I work the night shift at a memory care facility. Something else does too. I've never believed in ghosts. But after 14 months working alone in a memory care facility at 3 a.m. I believe in something. Chapter 1. The job nobody wanted. I want you to understand something before I get into this. I'm not the type of person who believes in ghosts. I grew up in a house full of practical people. My dad was an electrician, my mom was a nurse. We didn't talk about things that go bump in the night. We talked about faulty wiring and medication schedules. So when I say what I'm about to say, I need you to know it costs me something to say it. My name is Marcus. I'm 29 years old. And for 14 months, I worked the overnight shift at Harlow Pines Memory Care Center in rural Tennessee. Population of the surrounding county, about 3,000. Population of Harlow Pines, 22 residents. Staff on the overnight shift, just me. It was the job nobody wanted. The pay wasn't bad for the area, $18 an hour, but the isolation got to people. Previous overnight workers lasted anywhere from 2 weeks to 4 months before they put in their notice. I found this out on my first day, when the outgoing guy, a big fella named Travis, looked me dead in the eyes while shaking my hand and said, "I hope you sleep good during the day, brother. Because you won't be sleeping here." I laughed. I thought he was joking. He wasn't smiling. Chapter 2. Normal, until it wasn't. The first 3 weeks were fine. Quiet. Almost boring, which is exactly what I wanted. My responsibilities were simple: do a check on each resident every hour, document anything unusual, answer call lights, and handle any emergencies. The residents were mostly in their 70s and 80s, deep in various stages of dementia. Some were sweet and confused. Some were agitated. One woman named Dorothy thought I was her son every single night and would tell me she was proud of me before she went back to sleep. That part one liked. The facility was a long single-story building shaped like a U. The nurses' station sat at the center, and the 2 wings east and west stretched out from either side. East wing had 12 rooms. West wing had 10. At the very end of West wing was room 19, which had been empty the entire time I worked there. The door was always shut. I was told it was being held for a prospective resident. That was the first thing that seemed a little off to me. But I let it go. The second thing happened on a Tuesday night in my 4th week. I was doing my 2 a.m. rounds on West Wing when I heard something that stopped me cold in the hallway. Humming. Soft, low humming like a lullaby coming from behind the door of room 19. I stood there for a good 30 seconds just listening. My brain immediately started problem solving. Unfact vibration. Sound bleeding from a neighboring room. My own ears playing tricks after hours of silence. I knocked on the door. Nothing. I opened it. Empty. Dark. The room smelled like fresh paint and something older underneath it, something sweet and wrong, like flowers left in a vase too long. I documented it as a possible evac noise and moved on. But I didn't sleep great that day. Chapter 3. The logbook. Here's what nobody told me when I took the job: there was a secondary logbook. I found it by accident 6 weeks in, shoved behind a binder on the bottom shelf of the nurse's station cabinet. It was one of those old black and white composition notebooks, the kind you used in middle school. On the cover, someone had written in red marker, "West Wing Nights." I should have put it back. Instead, I sat down at 3 a.m. with a cup of bad coffee and I read it. It went back almost 11 years. Different handwriting every few months, each new overnight worker picking up where the last one left off. Most entries were mundane. Resident complaints, supply notes, shift observations. But scattered throughout, always from different people who had never met each other, were entries that made the coffee go cold in my hand. October 14th, something like 8 years back, heard humming from the empty room again. Third time this month. Maintenance check to vac. They said nothing's wrong. I don't know what to tell you. February 3rd, different year, different hand, Mr. Calloway in room 17 was screaming at 4 a.m. When I got to him, he kept pointing at the wall that connects to room 19 and saying, "She's counting them. She's counting us." He was lucid when he said it. That's the part that scared me. And then, near the back, only about 2 years old, an entry that made me set the notebook down and look up at the hallway. I watched the door handle of room 19 move tonight. Slowly. Like someone on the other side testing whether it was locked. I didn't open it. I called my supervisor. She said I was overtired. Maybe she's right. Giving my notice Friday. I sat at that desk for a long time. The hallway was dark and quiet. At the far end of West Wing, room 19's door was shut, same as always. I told myself it was folklore. Shift workers spooking each other. A haunted house story invented to explain away anxiety and sleep deprivation. Then the call light for room 19 turned on. Chapter 4. The call light. Call lights in memory care facilities work on a simple system. A resident pulls a cord or presses a button near their bed, and a light above their door turns on at the nurse's station panel. You go to them. You help. Room 19 had no resident. Room 19 had no call cord because the room was empty, and call cords are removed between residents and reinstalled when a new person moves in. So when the panel above my desk lit up with the number 19 glowing amber at 3:47 a.m., I want you to understand the specific terror of that moment. It wasn't a ghost story anymore. It was a light that couldn't be on, being on. I didn't move for a full minute. I just stared at it. Then it went off. I checked every other resident. I made sure Dorothy was asleep, that Mr. Calloway in 17 was breathing, that the 3 residents in East Wing who sometimes wandered were in their beds. Everyone was accounted for. Everyone was fine. I did not go to room 19. I called my supervisor, Janet, at 4 a.m. She was groggy and irritated. She told me the panel sometimes had glitches. She told me to document it and she'd call maintenance in the morning. When I mentioned the logbook, she went very quiet. "Where did you find that?" she asked. "Bottom shelf of the cabinet," I said. "Behind the..." "Put it back," she said. "And don't read it again." That was all she said before she hung up. Chapter 5. What was inside? I made it another 2 months. In that time, the humming came back for more times. The call light triggered twice more, always between 3 and 4 a.m., always off before I could react. I started timing my rounds so that I would be at the far end of East Wing during that window, as far from room 19 as the building allowed. I know how that sounds. A grown man rearranging his schedule to avoid a door. But you have to understand, it wasn't fear of the supernatural that was getting to me. It was something more specific and more rational, the feeling that something on the other side of that door was aware of me. Was learning my schedule. Was patient. The last night I worked at Harlow Pines, a resident named George, room 18, right next door to the empty room, pressed his call light at 3:20 a.m. I went to him. He was sitting up in bed, alert in a way that dementia patients sometimes get at night, that frightening window of clarity. "You need to open that door," he said. He pointed at the wall. "She's been waiting a long time. She just wants someone to see her." "George," I said, "there's nobody in that room." He looked at me with the saddest eyes I've ever seen on a person. "That's why she's so angry," he said, and lay back down. I stood in that hallway for a long time. I could hear nothing. And then, very faintly, from behind the door of room 19, a sound I can only describe as fingernails, slowly, deliberately, dragging down the inside of a wooden door. I quit the next morning. I didn't give notice. I left a voicemail for Janet and I drove home, and I sat in my kitchen in the daylight, and I did not feel safe for a long time. Epilogue. What I found out later. 3 months after I quit, I ran into Travis at a gas station, the guy who had handed me the job. We sat in his truck for an hour. He told me things. Room 19 had a resident once, about 12 years ago. An elderly woman named Miriam Holt. She had late-stage dementia and no family. She died alone on a Sunday night during the overnight shift. The worker on duty at the time had been doing something Travis didn't know what, and didn't find her until the 4 a.m. check. She had been dead for over an hour. The facility never officially filled room 19 again. Travis didn't know if that was policy or superstition or guilt. He didn't ask. He just knew, the same way every overnight worker came to know, that room 19 was not empty. I don't work nights anymore. I took a job at a hardware store. Days only. I sleep fine now, mostly. But every now and then, at 3:47 in the morning, I wake up for no reason I can name. And I lie there in the dark, in my own house, thinking about a woman who died alone while someone who was supposed to watch over her wasn't there. And I think about what George said. She just wants someone to see her. I never opened that door. And I think about that too.